Bonsoir, good evening.
Bonsoir. Bonsoir.
Hola. Arrête. Merci. Bon, je parle premièrement. Je parle. D'accord? Alors. Good evening. My name is Brigitte Paquette. First, on behalf of the Paris division of the Lemuel Crook Society, I would like to thank the Nugget Fringe Festival for inviting me to speak this evening regarding the work of Mr. Crook, or as he is known in my superior country, Le Mule. Now, in France, even the school children know of Le Mule, but in America, everything is new all the time, yes? Everybody likes the new, everybody forgets the history. So for you, for this American audience, I have prepared a short introduction to Lemuel Crook, who is one of your most amazing transformative artists. May I have the next slide, please? Lemuel was born in Chicory, Florida on the 7th of January in 1937, making him approximately the same age as my mother. He disappeared, you notice we do not say died, it is unknown his whereabouts. He disappeared in New York on the 13th of September 1979 and has not been heard from since. Next slide, please. I just introduce you a bit to his music. This is one of his first recordings. It was Look by Crook. It was actually it was an example of that 50s, 60s sales gimmick, the jazzed up Broadway musical. It was the theme of Peter Pan. I believe you know that story. Yes, the next. So this was the classic Lemuel Crook quintet involved Lemuel Crook, Edison Turner, James Wright, Fred Dinty, Townes Lean. Everyone knows these names. Next slide, please. Yes, this is the classic Lemuel Crook quintet. His first. Can I go back, please? Oh dear, it's going too fast. You know, technology, you cannot rely on it. Oh, we are getting all. Okay. Oh dear, now we're going backwards. All right, well, I will continue to speak forward. We will see what the slides do, for this date, his first for Tempo recordings, he serves up home-style favorites, hard-bopping cookers, flanked by heaps of steaming blues. Spicing up the menu are a few exotic concoctions. It's guaranteed to widen your palate. Yes, and I see we have, this is If I time it just right, we can do it. But another recording. This is you see, it was with Tempo. Tempo was the label that picked him up and carried him for many years. This one was. I quote Crook on this. I began my attempts to replicate the sound, this roaring matter. These were the original crude experiments. Guttural split tones, vocalizations through my horns, wooden objects in the bass, thudding, grinding mallets. Go, Lem, go. It was a departure. Yes, and next slide, please. Oh, look, it's working. What did epics get past get off on? What generated the joy for these now dead? What was the kicker? What was there before the sound of jazz? What was there before this wailing stuff? This is something that the critic Therese Bounty talked about Lemuel Crook. Yes. So the Lemmings there, yes. So although the Tempo albums are equally superlative, this, the quintet's last studio effort, has an added fire, due perhaps to the group's imminent demise. So it was after this period that there was growing tension among the group, and it gives a session a breakneck daredeviltry. That's difficult to say in English, huh? That is absent from the previous 3 recordings. So after Lemmings, the quintet disbanded officially. Crook and his mates, they were starving in New York at that year, and so he did what many did. He came to Paris. Yes, that's how you say it. We say Paris. To come here to do the music, yes, and only Turner and Lean came with him. The 3 arrived, and the people of France recognized immediately the artistry of such men that had been ignored in America. This Rifle Stifle is from his Paris years. And in May of 1968, it was still smarting everywhere. Yes, Crook said, time to say it. He carried his 2 American and his all over European 10 into the studio, and he had scribble charts. He was saying, "War no more." It's a very common thing to say in 1968. And finally, the next slide, please. Yes, this was the soundtrack. Lemuel branched out. He made a cult classic film called Calling Mr. Crook. Yes, well, I won't ruin the plot for you, but that is the last recording that we have from Lemuel Crook. His efforts on solo reeds, he called this the unitet. Huh? Like the quartet, yeah. Seriously undermined by their pairing, unfortunately, in this with dreary acid rock of the period. It was the 70s, what can I say? But what does emerge are passages of astonishing brilliance and emotional resonance that rank with Crook's finest work, and so I do recommend this to you if you can get through the acid rock. Oh, I'm sorry. This was a live album. That was the last studio album. Yes, this is. By the time we reached the Get Me a High lounge, we had. Lemuel says we had swelled to 27 musicians. There was no turning back. He writes, "I spread the band out single file amongst the line of bar stools and proceeded to play." This was captured, a live performance captured at the Get Me High lounge. Yes. Momentous, earth-shattering, the beast began to take shape that night, he writes. This was its first incarnation among the quivering crowd of shaky poets and local derelicts, like this crowd here. And the next slide, please. I'll let you decide who's the poet, who's the derelict. Huh? This is the poster. I think is this what you say? Poster? Yes, it's the poster for the amazing art farm turning point concert for Lemuel Crook. This is when he was making greater and greater aggregations, the omnitet. For this he had the etc. tet. I believe it was after the dodecahedron tet. Yes, the etc. tet. So it's one of his, I believe, who's this quoting? James Wright, he's one of the musicians. He kept upping the ante. He was looking for the jackpot. He was rolling the dice, spinning the wheel. Seems more like Russian roulette now. Spin the chamber enough times and you're bound to get a bullet in the head. This is no laughing matter. There were 5 people that died that night. The tubist, they could not move as fast as the others. It was a tragedy. You look on the internet. So there is one conspiracy theory that poses that the jazz community's neoclassical contingent engineered the riot in order to clear the way for the Marsales family. You know Winton? But I think this is garbage. The most prevalent and widely accepted theory is that Crook simply went nuts. They say just listen to his music, but that is the American viewpoint, it is not mine. So the search for Lemuel, next slide please. Yes, on the cover of Jive magazine, they covered Lemuel Crook. Does it say wherefore art thou? Yes, the jazz world was in mourning after he disappeared. Alright, now you're up to date, now I can do my regular lecture. Now that you know the history that you should have known before you walked into this room. Alright. So, the offer to do this talk, it came at a most fortuitous time, as we have just completed the first phase of a groundbreaking study of the least known period of Lemuel's professional life. It was 1969 to 1971, the Perry years, yes. Paris, whatever you may say. Lemuel Crook, the New York hard bopper, whose meteoric career began in the 1960s and blazed out in 1979 when his pandemonious etc. cancer left 5 dead, hundreds injured, and himself missing. Lemuel, the blazing man of genius, stereotyped in America as a jazz man, but as we will learn tonight, so much more enormous than that constricting label would indicate. Before I go in, I would like to take this opportunity to clarify the mission of the Paris division of the Lemuel Crook Society. We are a group of scholars dedicated to preserving and expanding the legacy of Crook's work. Not, as some would say, in fact, a majority would say, it would seem, if one bothers to read the academic journals, once respectable outlets for learned discourse among intellectual equals, but now it would seem not much more than forums for twittery bloggers offering academic it pieces in their pyjama, mesmerized by posting their nitwit opinions, masquerading as articles alongside reviews of the latest Hotties of Yale pin-up calendars. We are not, I repeat, not, as some would say, a society of bloodhounds formed to sniff out his trail, not some kind of ivory-towered London boogie Scotland Yard, not some kind of phobia, as it were, hoping to find his cold, stiff body and declare it dead, 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 so that we may then milk every last drop from the dead cow of his work for personal, professional gain. Mais non. There are those convinced that the society would disband if he were to burst back onto the scene, phoenix-like. It is a nice image. Yes. From the ashes, a development we all would welcome, yes? Yes. No, I assure you, no, fellow Crookophile, even if Lemuel were to return tomorrow, this evening, if he were to walk in those doors, our role as the great explainer would be more vital than ever. Lemuel did not dwell in the past. The ink was barely dry on the page. He was on to the next project. He was not one who stayed putted. He was one who looked forward, one who not only wondered what was over the next hill, one with, say, a little goat and a flowery bush on it, but was creating the next hill over which to climb, one with a bigger goat and a flowerier bush. Lemuel, perpetually in future state. What are mere mortals to do? How do we take nourishment? How do we derive maximum pleasure from his accomplishment? How do we get the most, what is this, bang for your buck, yes? But by diligent, microscopic examination, by study of grand gesture and subtle, comment c'est dit, nuance? Nuance? Nuance. By repeated listenings with the headphones on until our heads fall off. So, 18 months ago, 2 large parcels arrived on the doorstep of our society headquarters in New York. The bagel shop downstairs insisted it was for them, but we knew better. The parcels were unmarked except for the letters L, C, C, S, written in black Sharpie. Lemuel Crook Society, in case you're not following along. And copious amounts of French postage stamps, prompting our staff to nickname the parcels Jacques and Louis. 1969 to 1971. This was the time when Lemuel and his compatriots left the turbulent, violent, racist, war-torn, disgusting, how do you say, just plain icky United States, and came to the intellectual, respectful, colorblind nirvana of the Republic of France. It has its problems as well, but like as you say, hey, that's the gravy, right? The Paris years, we know his public life. We know the concert, the album we saw earlier, Eiffel Stifle, such as this monumental anti-war statement, but where did he live? How did he create? Whom did he know? When Jacques and Louis were opened, what we found inside was the most extraordinary and led to discoveries of unprecedented brilliance, which I will share with you this evening. Inside Jacques and Louis was a veritable bounty of unprecedented amount. Papers like you have never seen in your life, worse than my office. Notes, drawings, sketches, napkins, receipts, pages torn from books, newspapers, magazines. One paper was of most interest, was a joint patent application sent at the same time to both the Selmer Saxophone Company and to Jacques Cousteau. It had designs for a Nautilus series of instruments that could be played underwater. This impossible document, because it had an address on it, it led us to the first of many apartments that Crook lived in while in Paris. In it, we discovered this drawing. May I have the next slide, please? This was in the apartment when we went to look. In all these years, it has stayed. I guess the tenants that came after, they like it. They have actually a couch that coordinates with these colors. So it was inscribed into the very wall next to the bedside. He referred to these drawings that he did, these murals, he called them his nocturnal transmissions. The nocturnal transmissions, visions that came to him in the night, while in the dream state, while in the waking state, the hallucinatory state, states of panic and anxiety. When he found himself in such predicament, he would scribble, scratch, paint, and plaster the wall until it was filled all the way up to its tippy top. And then he would move his bed to a new wall, ready for the next visitation. You can see here the Nautilus saxophone. Crook, he designed a gill for the instrument so the musicians can play in the water. Lemuel wanted the players to feel the weight of the ocean around them. He wanted, and I quote him here, a thicker music, a slower music, a part of the blue-green expanse of original life. Let us return to our sub-crustacean origins, our original vibratory patterns. He's a genius. In his patent application, he tells Cousteau this research will lead to communication with the higher beings of the sea. I quote him again. I submit this will only happen when we are submerged in the same elements and environment that forge the song of the blue whale and the chatter of the dolphin. Soon we will be transmitting the oceanic ballad of the human aquatic. Now, you may have noticed I have some musicians here with me.
Really?
Yes. They're going to play an interpretation to the best of their ability. The music that goes in this music that is the underwater music. Take a listen. You feel the underwateriness, eh? I see you transform. So, we go to black now. To concentrate on me. In the bowels of Louis, we discovered a thumbed over Michelin guide, which contained the key to the apartment of Crook. So now we divide the Paris period by the 5 landladies. Madame de Orvignon, Abut, Tallemont, Giquet, and Palatin. In the house of Abut, we discovered this creation. Next slide, please. That was quick. In Paris, Lemuel was growing his reputation as the jazzman extraordinaire, but repressions of his inner Yankee inventor led to an explosion such as this. He had a vision one night after receiving horrible food from Madame Abut, a frequent occurrence judged by the near illegibility of the scribbling we discovered there. He saw a network of wires attached to mammoth towers stretched around the globe. I quote him again, "I see a macro harp for all to play. If plucked in Dallas, it will be heard in Denver, Saskatchewan, Timbuktu. Très grand vibration, waves with troughs and crests thousands of miles long. People must have the means to pluck and play it. Here in this picture, you see the rocket-powered hovering plectrums, from which the people are going to it. They have on the goggles and they are smiling while they do their go-go. Despite the excremental cuisine, it is a blissful crook in the period of Abut." We hear some music from this period. One mind and such different sounds, huh? So, tucked tightly into Jacques, we found a photo of Lemuel's bedroom during the Madame Giquet period. Next to the bed is a folding ladder, crayons hanging from the ceiling, pens and pencils on rack after rack. It signifies to us that by this period he is prepared for the nocturnal transmissions when it comes. And boy, he is going to get it. Even though we suspect during this period he was doing the intercourse with Madame Giquet and having a pretty good time of it. She was a hot little item. The transmissions of this period are of a darker nature, the work of a grumpy artist, not so complete as one would suspect. He refers to this as the musical industrial complex. Oh, next slide, please. Yes, there, the musical industrial complex. He says, we will bring the capitalists down and retrofit the means of production to wail and jive. He sees a post-metropolitan world where cities merely serve as sound generators for remote villages. We would like that here, huh? He imagines great smogs of sound, thick black clouds rising above the city, and rocket-powered mobile villages which travel many miles to entertain its inhabitants with this musical intoxication. Perhaps we see in this drawing the beginnings of the flawed vision of the oppressed utopian mass that in 10 years' time led to the tragedy of the etc. tête. Let's hear some of the music from this period. So after Lemuel moved on from an apartment, be it that he left, found a better deal, or was kicked out by a jealous husband, many of the nocturnal transmissions were unceremoniously removed. Erased, washed away, some of them were simply painted over. Thankfully, with the new X-ray technology that we've developed, we have been able to recover those that still exist under layers and layers of latex. This is one such work. Next slide, please. Yes, look. This is from the period of Madame Palaton, a woman with many puppies. Lemuel says that in his letters home. We found in Jacques, in Lemuel's handwriting, an application to NASA to become an astronaut. Never, mind you, completed or sent as far as we know. He weighs in the essay portion, I quote him here. They say music is the universal language. What is the language of universal music? We need evolutionary manipulation. The future people of the cosmos are going to stretch their ears and other perceiving mechanisms of the body so we can hear the sound of infinity. Sound is a frequency, so is heat, light, cold, plasma, quasar, stardust. He was moved from the fish of the sea to the stars in the sky. I'm going to let you hear the music of the stars from Lemuel. Lemuel says, and I quote him, "We will train astromuses to interpret the ice of Pluto and the heat of gamma clouds. We will develop the alchemical. We will do the celestial voodoo. We will perceive the universe as the omnicosmic composition that it is, and we will modulate to a grand new key." I want to thank the Nugget Fringe Festival for this opportunity for me and my colleagues to present these visions. Weststeed over here. Yes, thank you.
McKeon and
McKeon on the trombone.
Murray Campbell.
Murray Campbell. And Randy McKeon. During our visit to America, we hope to raise funds to begin realizing some of these amazing ideas of Lemuel Crook to bring them to actuality. As my great hero, the philosopher Didi the Impossibilist, said, "Nothing has ever been built that was not imagined first. Without these dreams, we would not have realities." Good night.